I hope the crowd's warmed up. I am. It's the incomparable Bruce Springsteen. Let's hear it for him.
Well, we busted out of class, had to get away from those fools. We learned more from a 3-minute record than we ever learned.
You know, only Springsteen could turn Bill Clinton into a warm-up act, but the two, they shared the stage Thursday to pump up supporters for a rally for the president. Yes, you guessed it, Ohio. Boss also campaigned for the president in Iowa yesterday. The Obama camp clearly trying to do something to warm up the base that Dominc says is not there, although I think he was talking about a different population that might be at a Bruce Springsteen concert. But either way here, no rock star is going to change anybody's vote. This is all about trying to get enthusiasm and also trying to get a sense at this point, where is the public in this election? Now, recent polling shows that Obama, he's doing good in those crucial swing states like Iowa, where a poll has him up, NBC Wall Street Journal, by 8 points. In Wisconsin, they say that he's up by 6 points. But then you take a look at the Gallup poll, and it says it's the complete opposite. That poll has got Romney up by 6 points, and that's the national poll. Now, everybody, I've heard even conservatives say that's an outlier, just like maybe the margins that you heard in Wisconsin and Ohio, where most people think the thing's closer. Now, Nate Silver, New York Times poll cruncher, the same guy who nailed it to within one electoral vote before the last election, he said that national polls published in the last 24 hours has Obama up by about 3 points. Obama up by another 3 points in another poll, 3 in another, 1 in the final one, and up by 6 points. They had him as well as some other numbers here. Romney, though, in that huge Gallup poll, up by 6 to 7 points here. Now, the point I'm trying to get to all this is, who the heck knows what the real numbers are? And I asked you two guys because your job is to try and decipher what the numbers really mean. I just get the sense this time around, everybody always complains, oh, don't believe the polls, especially if the guy's losing. But this time people really don't know what's going on. It's like that volatility index when we look at the markets. 1 week to the next, it's up not like 2 or 3 points, 9 or 10 points. The swings are amazing. Can you guys make any sense? Do you think the polls are right here, or do you think nobody's got an idea really where this thing is?
I don't see it the same way.
Well, tell me how Gallup's got it up 6 or 7, and the other polls have the key swing states here.
Listen, there's a 3.5 point, 4 point margin of error on either side of these polls. So the fact is, empirically, they're all within the margin of error on either side. They're not that far apart. And often when we discuss polls, we skew the national polls and mix them up with the state by state. Mm-hmm. So in your lead into that, you actually compared the 6 to 8 gap between Wisconsin and Iowa to a national poll result, and look how far apart they are. But that has nothing to do with each other.
But do you believe that the president's down, as Gallup says, 6 to 7 points nationally? I've never seen a poll that's remotely like that.
Virtually everybody agrees that's an outlier.
Okay, but then you're now Romney, and you're looking here at the map, and you're looking at these polls, and you have to take your resources here in the limited time and decide where to double down, where to pull out from, concentrating your efforts. You got to look at polling data, right? I mean, explain, give a little one-on-one to the audience when you have to make a critical decision, where you do your ad buys, where you put your resources for your ground game, overwhelming. They're going to pull up maybe out of Pennsylvania and put it instead in Ohio. But you look at these numbers, it makes it so hard to figure that out, right?
Oh, absolutely. But each campaign has their own internal polling. And beyond just what
do they trust their internal numbers more than what the big...
Of course. And beyond just what the head-to-head is, you have to go into the crosstabs and figure out where are you polling better with women? Is it a certain demographic? Which areas of the state? And that's how they direct their resources, based on the digging into those numbers. Taking just a top-line view of that is more, I mean, look, we're in a 24-hour cable news cycle now. Every event that the campaign has, every comment that the candidate makes affects these polls. People are constantly being polling.
And it takes a while for those events to impact the poll numbers. The polls can't react as immediately to the events as we see them happening on the 24/7 news cycle.
To that point, Dom, are we as a people here so knee-jerk with the latest stimuli, right, that some guy says binders, all of a sudden you lose interest. Some guy kicks his rear end in a debate, and all of a sudden it moves 9 points the needle. Do you think the polls are reflective over how much people change their minds so fast, or do you think they're just getting it wrong?
Well, I think looking at it on the surface, you're probably correct. But you already know what I think. And I don't want to say it again. But because President Obama is the first African-American president, I think the numbers, no, seriously, the numbers, you cannot judge him the same way you would any other candidate.
But a poll is a poll. They have to pick a candidate.
Because people lie to pollsters. They're not going to tell you all, they're not under oath to tell you exactly how they really feel. And people change their minds.
I think that's close to where I am on this too, which is not that I don't think people inherently go out to try to lie to the pollsters. You know, I'm going to tell them exactly the wrong answer this time when they call. But, you know, I think people have a good idea of who they're probably going to vote for. But then as events come and go throughout the campaign, they grade it more like a reality show where it's, you know, oh, Jessica gave a great answer there. Yeah, I support Jessica.
But the truth of the matter is, you know, Romney's gotten a lot of grief for the 47% comment. But you're only talking to 6% of the electorate across the board to begin with. Mm-hmm. You know, the other folks have made up their mind before it starts. But if I thought
that, and I did before, then I wouldn't see a 9% swing in the polls after a debate, because in theory, only 6% are really in play here to go one way or the other. It seems that it's a more fluid electorate. Now, I got one question for you guys who are inside this. I think the way, and I used to work on some of putting these polls together, and I know how it works. You get the volunteers to be in a bank if you're not in a big college or tied to a major paper to do it, and you have them start working the phones here, and if they get somebody at the home, that's great. They didn't call cell phone numbers. It was different in the 80s and 90s than it is in 2012. More and more people, look at the young people work here. They don't have landlines. They only have cell phones.
Right, so I don't either, but
I'm
legitimate.
you a young guy. So, but where I'm going with this is, are we worried that the numbers aren't as empirical as they used to be because people aren't sitting around the dinner table at 7, they're on a cell phone?
Legitimate pollsters have worked that into the equations
and worked it, but it seems like
it depends.
It's like on the margin, not the main. I think that's the main now.
I will tell you, increasingly we're sampling much larger pools of folks than we ever have before, both because we want crosstabs that are in the margin of errors.
Crosstabs.
You know, Democratic women. You want to look at how Democratic or independent women are trending differently. Do they react to different messaging? Well, you want your crosstab numbers to be above 85 to have a margin of error that makes those.
And you also now try and get those cell phones, right? So you're trying to get the younger people,
I think that was the point that was made earlier. Pollsters are recognizing you've got to roll cell phone numbers in, and they're doing that. But on top of that, in order to address what you're saying, which is hard to get a sampling that's true and empirical, we're just sampling larger.
All right, we jump to a break. When we come back, it's time to roll the dice and play how you would bet here. Andrew, I found this terrific site here who literally, with real money, is laying odds one way or the other. We're not going to let him weasel out here, let Dominc pick on the one hand or the other. You're going to either have to buy or sell. He'll try. We'll get into that, play the political odds here when we come back. Stay with us.